So Leonard, Mizzi, thank you very much despite your heavy schedule. As I met you in the metro yesterday, it was night, late already, and he was coming from Amsterdam, and he had the program for this morning to be here early, so thank you so much. Leonard Mizzi is the head of unit for rural development, food security and nutrition at Europeaid, so the development part of the European Commission. Beyond that, he was, of course, a long experience in the private sector, but also working at DG Agriculture before, looking at the EU markets and all the food coming from third countries to the EU. So he knows very well both sides, development and the trade part on responding to the needs to better access the EU markets. And he's a friend of development, a friend of the farmers and the value chain actors. I thank very much as well DG Agri for joining us as co-organizers. We have Iman, who will speak this morning in the first panel, and we have Paola in front of me, who has been my daily interlocutor to organize this. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. So Leonard, if you want a few words, and you have also the task of being the chair of the first panel afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zolina, and thank you, Vivanu, and Michael, and colleagues, Tom, and Iman, and Paola. So I come with a cap of DG DEFCO, yes, but this is also having Tom here, who is the chair of the Rural Africa Task Force, and he will explain a bit later on during the day what the task force aims to achieve. I think we have, as Vivanu said, an opportune moment and in the coming days to really give a clear signal to the young generation of the potential of agriculture as an enterprise, not as an area where if you don't find a job, you will end up in agriculture because there is no other choice. I think we need to give a clear signal. And yes, yesterday I was in Amsterdam. I actually went to look at Rainforest Alliance and UTZ on certification schemes and how certification schemes can help add value in chains, whether coffee, whether cocoa, whether the controversy around palm oil, whether pineapples, whether bananas. And as you know, there is a lot of debate about the transparency of the value chain. I know Yannis will speak a lot about the experience within the European Union. We have come a long way within the European Union to discuss unfair trading practices, which is considered as one of the most controversial and difficult sort of barriers of entry of young generation farmers beyond clearly the area of access to finance. So we need to create those framework conditions for the new generation to actually penetrate, invest, and prosper in an area which has traditionally not been a fully attractive area to enter. And I give a bit of emphasis on the education dimension. So last weekend, when I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she is in the process of trying to identify where to try to specialize in 2-3 years' time. So we went to see a lot of catalogs of universities. And unfortunately, you don't find the agricultural department as a sexy department. So agricultural sciences, agricultural technology, you don't find in many catalogs, or in post-secondary education, what I call the framework conditions for people, for young people, for the young generation to actually be enticed to actually specialize in agriculture. You have environmental sciences, you have biology, yes, so areas around climate change are becoming more and more important. But I think we need to give a baseline for the education system to actually make it attractive for the younger generation to actually say, yes, I want to be an agri-entrepreneur. Yes, I want to specialize in agribusiness. Yes, there is a future in agribusiness. So as Commission services, I think we have an obligation, and in close collaboration with the ACP Secretariat and with all of you, to really try to design a new way of doing business to attract the young generation, a generation which needs renewal. We will not enter, I will not repeat the age brackets of the farming community in many ACP countries. It's an aging population, so one, a generation renewal. Areas where we are working a lot and funding a lot around land, so access to land, because that is a key component in whether you stay or not in farming. So the voluntary guidelines and responsible agricultural investment, which we have been financing in the last 5 years. The territorial approach, because when we discuss generational renewal, it's also a question that young people, those also who want to set up families, want conditions which are similar to what they are used to in urban areas, and maybe better. So creating a territorial dimension, meaning to create those framework conditions in rural and secondary cities so that young generation don't need to migrate to maybe big urban centers, which might be slum areas, where there might not be the El Dorado that they are looking for, or they migrate to other countries south, or looking to the Mediterranean and risking their lives. So I think we need a good narrative, and as Vivano said, we need to go out from this meeting today to see what really are one or two key issues that we need to deliver within the next few months. So we have the task force, which will be presenting its report in the Vienna summit on the 18th of December. And I think without influencing the chairman and the task force members, we need to give a clear signal of the role of youth in this new narrative. We also have the joint parliamentary assemblies and the meetings of the joint parliamentary committees. I think there it's also important to give a platform of young, nascent leaders, and I know Michael and Isolina work a lot with agri-entrepreneurs and nascent leaders when we were together in Kigali at the AGRF forum a few months ago, to actually create that platform, that dialogue for them to actually vent their opinion, frustration, views, and maybe recommendations. What do they want out of the EU and ACP leaders? What are their expectations? And I think we need to give them an opportunity to actually convey these messages, not necessarily face to face, but using all the appeal of social media, of Instagrams and of the Facebooks of this world and of Twitters, to actually create that communication, which is a permanent communication between us in Brussels, in the capitals, but also what their expectations are. And clearly expectations that are digital. So as Vivano said, it's not the technology of today, but even yesterday we were discussing areas of artificial intelligence and blockchains and how they can actually be unleashed in terms of price transparency across the value chain, how to actually use technology to actually tackle diseases and pests at farm level, how to use drones, and Michael will explain maybe, and we have a lot of experiences in this area, how to actually move up the value chain beyond the commodities, so the issue of quality policy, and last but not least, the area of nutrition, how to have diverse diets and change the food system approach from what we are used today, because that food system which we are used today risks to be broken if it continues as a business as usual. So looking forward for today's proceedings, and as usual with Vivano and with his team and with Isolene and Michael and CTA, what we try to achieve out of these Brussels briefings is that we actually try to be ambitious enough to follow up on one or two key messages and maybe use the momentum that we have ahead of us to actually give clear signals to the policymakers that there is a future for young people to educate themselves, but also to actually be the leaders of tomorrow and change the food system in a way which becomes a viable business opportunity. Thank you.